The development of science fiction and detective fiction in Japanese literature. The development of science fiction and detective fiction in Japanese literature. Japanese literature has a rich history, and its development has been influenced by a variety of factors such as cultural and political changes, as well as the impact of foreign literature. Within the realm of Japanese literature, science fiction and detective fiction are two genres that have experienced significant growth and development. In this article, we will explore the history and evolution of science fiction and detective fiction in Japanese literature. Science fiction in Japanese literature. The emergence of science fiction in Japan can be traced back to the early 20th century, when the first science fiction magazine, Shinseinen New Youth, was established in 1905. At the time, Japan was undergoing a period of modernization and rapid change, and science fiction provided a way for writers to explore and reflect on the impact of technology on society and culture. One of the earliest Japanese science fiction writers was Juzo Uno, who published his first science fiction novel, Kaitei Gunkan, The Undersea Battleship, in 1936. Uno's works were heavily influenced by the science fiction of H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, and he is considered one of the pioneers of Japanese science fiction. During the 1930s and 1940s, Japanese science fiction writers began to incorporate their own cultural and political perspectives into their works. This was a time of great social and political upheaval in Japan, and writers began to explore issues such as imperialism, totalitarianism, and the dangers of unchecked scientific progress. After World War II, Japanese science fiction continued to evolve and incorporate new themes and perspectives. The emergence of nuclear power and the Cold War were major influences on Japanese science fiction in the post-war period. And writers began to explore the impact of technology and science on society and the environment. One of the most influential Japanese science fiction writers of the post-war period was Yasutaka Tsutsui. His works, such as Paprika and the Girl Who Leapt Through Time, explored themes such as time travel, artificial intelligence, and the relationship between humans and technology. Detective fiction in Japanese literature. Detective fiction has also been a popular genre in Japanese literature since the early 20th century. The first detective novel in Japan, The Case of the Honjin Murders by Seishi Yokomizo, was published in 1946 and became a bestseller. Japanese detective fiction has been influenced by both Western and Japanese literary traditions. Many Japanese detective novels incorporate elements of traditional Japanese literature, such as the use of riddles and puzzles, and the influence of Zen Buddhism. In the post-war period, Japanese detective fiction began to reflect the changing social and political landscape of Japan. Detective novels began to explore social issues such as corruption, crime, and the justice system. And many writers use detective fiction as a way to critique and comment on Japanese society and culture. One of the most prominent Japanese detective fiction writers of the post-war period was Edogawa Rampo. His works, such as The Human Chair and The Black Lizard, were known for their psychological complexity and exploration of the darker aspects of human nature. The influence of Japanese science fiction and detective fiction on popular culture. Japanese science fiction and detective fiction have had a significant impact on popular culture both in Japan and around the world. Many works of Japanese science fiction and detective fiction have been adapted into popular films, TV shows, and video games, cementing their place in popular culture.